Well, state funding for a film about Nebraska civil rights icon Chief Standing Bear is on hold. State Auditor Mike Foley says the production company breached their contract.
Now, Foley outlined a series of alleged violations by the film's production company. In 2023, the Department of Economic Development awarded $5 million in public funds to a company called I Am a Man to produce the film. The company was also set to receive a matching $5 million from a Hollywood financier. Foley says the state never verified those matching funds existed and kept issuing payments anyway. By 2025, the state had disbursed more than $4.1 million in grant money.
As we now know, based on our investigation, there's no matching funds whatsoever, not even a dollar. Every dollar that's been spent on this thing, which hasn't produced much of anything yet, every dollar has been state tax dollars, and that's just not right. The DED should have been more cognizant of what was happening here and more observant of the fact that the matching money wasn't showing up.
Well, bank records allegedly show tens of thousands of dollars in expenses were paid with grant money in direct violation of the agreement. Foley believes the department should have halted its funding sooner.
You know, this should have happened long, long ago, and they're a day late and a dollar short, the way I would phrase it. But anyway, at least they've done for now, the important thing immediately is stop the flow of money until we get this all sorted out.
Well, the department issued a suspension notice to the production company last week. The company is now asking permission to film outside of Omaha.
We spoke with the movie's film producer, Andrew Troy, over the phone. He issued a statement saying, and quote, "The Standing Bear project originated under funding from the American Rescue Plan Act. While the award was publicly announced out early on, it took nearly 2 or more years before a final contract was eventually issued. We moved forward with the agreement based on guidance that updates and amendments would follow to reflect those changes. The ARPA program expired, and thus these specific funds were moved into general state funds. However, our agreement was never updated to reflect the change, something we have been working and requesting to amend ever since."